All right, well, why don't we kick off with some quick introductions? I can start. I will be your chair panel review facilitator today. My name's Fran Paleo Moyer. I'm Associate Director of Outreach Programs at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I oversee several different outreach programs where we send students and faculty all over the state. It's a lot of fun. I'm also a musician. I was a flute performance major, flute and piccolo, play for fun. And I'm also in the Madison Symphony Chorus, and I dabble in visual art and acrylic painting. So why don't we just kind of go round robin? Anne, why don't we take you next, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anne Ruffley. I'm happy to be back on a Dane Arts panel once again, and it's lovely to meet you all and see you all. I am the Grants and Corporate Giving Officer at Madison Children's Museum, right downtown on Capitol Square. And I'm originally from Michigan and moved here for graduate school in 2021. And I'm just grateful to be here with you all, and I look forward to discussing these very interesting applications today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Holly?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here and part of the panel. The arts are such an important part to me, part to my life and to the community. And I have a design strategy firm, so I do a lot of workshops and leadership development and mentoring and the design thinking space. But I also I'm also an artist myself, and those two kind of come together in an empathetic space where I'm all about the empathy and the research piece for both art making and design strategy. But I am here in Madison, and I'm half Australian, half American. My dad was Australian. And I also just illustrated my first children's book, and I've done a lot of public art installations, large scale murals, specifically a lot of public schools between Brooklyn, New York, and here in Madison. And so it's lovely to meet all of you.
Thank you, Holly. Nice to meet you. Let's see, Emily?
Yeah, hi, my name is Emily Valancourt. I am a development program specialist for the Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association. I have been in Madison for about 4 years. I also moved here to do my master's program. And I've been involved in the arts in a lot of different ways, mostly theater. That's what my undergraduate degree is in. It's what I continue to dabble in. I also participate in choirs around Madison. Yeah, I have just a very strong adoration for all forms of the arts, but the performance side is where I live. But yeah, this is probably my third or fourth cycle reviewing grants, I believe, and it's wonderful to be able to participate and to continue meeting new people every time. So I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you, Emily. Thank you. Carrie?
Yes, hello. My name is Carrie Braxton, and I work for Dane County. I am the manager of equal employment opportunity in the Office for Equity and Inclusion. But with regards to the arts specifically, I love live events. I love plays and concerts. I love going, I'm invited to various events, and I like to go and partake in then artwork, going to them. And I especially, and I'm not going to get off on one of my little tangents. Anywho, I do like the art. I do like the art, the various types of art that Dane County has to offer. And I haven't been on the panel in a while just because of scheduling conflict. So I'm glad to be able to assist with this. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Such an important part, having audiences that appreciate it. So thank you for your part. Jennifer, is your microphone working? I saw maybe.
Yes, I got it to work. Thanks.
Great.
I'm Jennifer Norback. I'm back in Madison area after being away for about, I don't know, I guess 35 years. Am I old enough to say that? I guess I am. I did my undergraduate here in art history. And then I lived in many places, mostly in Chicago, where I had an art gallery of my own. I put together art, mostly worked with visual arts, but I also did some with performance. specifically with new music, both in my gallery and in other spaces. I did some curating, worked a lot in Paris, worked in, most recently, before I took the position I'm in now, I was putting together an art residency program in Sonoma. Now I am with Create Wanakee. I'm wearing my swag. So I'm the development director for Create Wanakee, which is a fledgling organization. We've actually been around for about 15 years, but just started off as an independent 501c3 in February. So I'm very excited to be here, very, very happy to be back in the Midwest, and really enjoying being a part of this group. Thank you.
Excellent. And Jennifer, I apologize, I didn't recognize you. We met at the recent reception at your place, that amazing set of artists that you brought in. So really nice to see you again.
See you.
Great. Okay. Well, let's get rolling here. I just want to take a minute also to thank you so much for taking time out to serve your community in this way. In hearing all of your descriptions of your backgrounds, it's obvious that the arts are very important to you. And this funding mechanism that Dane Arts provides is so valuable for our community. And it really is a way we help to keep Dane County thriving as an arts and culture hub. So thanks so much for all of that. I just wanted to talk to you also. My role as facilitator, I'm not going to be commenting on anything. I'm just going to be trying to keep us on task. I like to read the Dane Arts mission just as sort of a general overview for us as we embark on this work today. So the Dane Arts Commission is committed to making our county stronger by supporting citizens, groups, and organizations that preserve our shared heritage and create arts and cultural opportunities for residents and visitors. Our mission is to engage participation, connect people, and inspire expressive living in Dane County. So by now you've certainly read the online applications assigned to you in web grants and taken notes on those applications. The commission, of which I'm proudly vice chair, determines funding based mainly on your opinion. So it's really critical that you're fair, deliberate, and attentive to detail. It's no easy task for some of these groups to submit a full grant proposal. Many are written by volunteers who already have other full-time jobs. So we don't want to jeopardize those who may be new to grant writing, yet we do have criteria for judging the merit of the project. The requests are always for more dollars than we have to allocate. So your attention to the applications is really critical. We do, I believe, Augusta, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would plan to award a minimum of $500 to all eligible fundable applications. Is that still true? Yes, she's nodding.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I will go through each application. I'll introduce the number. I'll name the organization, the ID number, the amount requested, and then I'll indicate who the primary reviewer is and who the secondary reviewer is. So primary and secondary. Primary will lead the discussion. Secondary can chime in with some other thoughts if they have them. Not everyone has to speak about every application, but then we'll open it up to the panel for additional comments. And then immediately following the discussion, we'll reserve a few minutes for you to score and submit your scores and notes. And then when we're all done, we have 10 applications to score, 5 and 5. We'll take a little break in between. And then at the end, we'll look for any feedback you have on the process. Augusta and Mark are continually revising and trying to improve the process. So appreciate that. Any questions before we get started? Okay. All right. Well, then we'll kick off with ID number 26478 in the visual arts, Hornz and Haloz Films, LLC. The request is for $5,233, which is 33.26% of their total budget request, or their total budget, sorry. Primary on this is Anne and secondary is Carrie, whenever you're ready.
Carrie, are you ready? Okay, great. Thank you, Fran. So Hornz and Haloz Films LLC is the applicant, and just noting that they are using a fiscal receiver for this proposal, and that is Create Wisconsin. Hornz and Haloz Films LLC is requesting funding to support their film, which, quote, is a social conscious horror about a traditional American childhood song with a dark past. The project timeline is due to start in August of 2026, so not quite a year away, and end in October of 26. Partnering locations are UW-Madison primarily, and their Vilas Communication Hall for a free film screening. They intend to reach roughly 100 people total, primarily adults. And the applicant acknowledges that the market and audience for this project may be niche, swaying towards horror film and social conscious audiences. And my first takeaway about this was that this is a very personal passion project, articulated specifically in the why create this project section. I have to say it was quite interesting. I've never read anything quite like it before. I think the application was strong in clearly laying out who their project partners were, including the actors and the production team. They also reiterated this through their budget by laying out all of the actors that they intend to work with and pay. I was curious to know, of the total artist list, how many of those folks were local. The application did mention that there were a few celebrity actors, if you will, folks that may be more nationally known, but I wasn't quite sure about the others. So I was curious about that from the local point of view. And also would have loved to have seen bios of those artists, even if they were potential hyperlinks to their bios, just to reinforce that artistic excellence, artistic quality component. In their project budget, they did not show any confirmed matching funds, but they did detail the businesses that they intend to solicit for support, and they were quite specific about that. So that was helpful to know. They also utilized the supplemental attachment section with the concept trailer and a pre-trailer as well. So they supplied that visual medium of their art form to give more context to what they intend to do in this project. In terms of opportunities for improvement, in the evaluation section, I wanted to know more about how the applicant will gather feedback from their intended audiences, and how will their audiences inform success and impact. And also in the marketing section, I think there was some more opportunity that could be taken. And I also understand that there is limited character and word space. However, in their initial screening component, for example, I wanted to just know a little bit more about how they're going to market that screening to audiences locally in Madison. For instance, is this a college audience? Is this more of a cinema student audience? Are they looking for even a larger and broader audience beyond the UW-Madison campus? Those are some of the questions I had in my mind. And overall, I think there was a missed opportunity to talk a little bit more and articulate more about why this project is important to the community as a whole right now. Like I said, this applicant is clearly very passionate, and this is a personal passion for this project, and they clearly care about it in a very authentic way. But just wanted to get a little bit more scope out of the relevance to the larger community. Those are my comments. Thank you.
I second most of the pretty much most everything you said, and I did like the idea that I did like that they mentioned about including locals, restaurants and catering, that part about giving back, because that is really good for businesses. I think that in itself, to me, showed a little thought processing locally. We're not a huge market in various areas with some of this stuff, like compared to like Chicago or which is closer or whatever. So the whole Candyman, I think he was kind of dealing with kind of like I think example was the Candyman kind of thing or whatever. I still think we could have gotten a little bit more information. It's definitely, I took it as personal, something very personal to that person and passionate. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have. And the pre-screenings are also, he mentioned about her mentioned about also wanting to do, I think, pre-screenings as well. So I have nothing else, but again, a few missed opportunities. And I'll leave it there. Thanks.
All right, any other comments?
I have one, I guess, somewhat logistical question. What is the timing for funding again? Is August of 2026 too far in the future? I mean, clearly not because it's here, but can you remind me of the timing?
Yes, so projects for this cycle are November 1st of 2025. And then it would be through June or December. Let me double check. I knew this really well, and then I'm already thinking about next cycle.
Because yeah, I felt like it was quite far in advance for stuff to be in October of 26.
Oh yeah, so it'd be December 31st of 26 is like the end of the cycle.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it is
perfect.
within it.
Great.
I'm like, what year is it even? But yeah, so November 1st of 2025 through December 31st, 2026. So it'd be like towards the end of the cycle.
Great.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts or comments? All right, we will take a few minutes to score this. In the past, we've had people raise their hands when they're done scoring. We can do it a few different ways. If you want to turn off your screen, and when you're done, turn it back on, like whatever. What do we want to do as a group? What makes the most sense?
Raise hand. I think it's simpler enough.
Okay, great.
My
Thank you.
opinion.
I'll look for your hands then.
Yeah, for our new reviewers, this is the time when you'll have your scores saved and then click save, and then this green submit button will appear, and you can click submit, and it'll say, "Are you sure?" And you say yes, and then it will disappear from your list of applications in web grants. All right, all the scores are in. Fran, thanks everybody.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to ID number 26499 under the category of local history. Daniel James Koehn. The request is for $5,250, which is 29.75% of total budget. Emily will be primary and Holly secondary whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So, Driven by Stories is a community storytelling project about Daniel Koehn, who also goes by the pseudonym Daniel Kane. It's about his experience as an Uber driver and some of the stories that he's heard while driving folks around the Dane County area. He said his plan is to highlight about 100 stories that he's gathered over the years. And then as far as deliverables go, there will be performances that are live streamed. I believe the plan is also to make a book and then maybe also an audio book. That was one of the things I was a little confused about was the actual deliverables. I feel like they focused a lot on the performance in the first couple paragraph options and then switched to talking about like the distribution of a book. And then in the budget section, there's also something about an audio book. So I was slightly unclear about what is actually being delivered with this. I do think that, again, this is a very, personal passion project that this person has. It seems to be well planned out. I think that the letters of support in the supplemental materials section are very strong, you can feel the fact that people can feel his passion. He seemed to have a strong marketing plan, multi-channel marketing, strong partnership options. I was a little confused on how he plans to execute said partnership options. Like I know Arts and Literature Lab is mentioned as a venue where this will be performed, and then they were mentioned as a partner in the marketing category, but then I don't see them listed anywhere in the budget. So I don't know if they're truly doing like a free trade, if just nothing is planned out yet, but I didn't see anything budgetary about Arts and Lit Labs particular, because there were a couple venues in there, like I know Art House 360 was in there. So I think maybe just a few details to be double checked on. I appreciated the breakdown of like the money use for stories and then the people that this will reach. I think it was like this will be less than $27 per story and like less than $2 per person if it gets distributed to like 1,000 people. I thought that was a good way to look at the budget and the money of this. So yeah, I guess just like a couple questions that I had about it, as I already iterated, like what is exactly the final deliverables of this? Like what are these performances that are being live streamed? What are they going to look like? Like, is it just going to be someone narrating on a stage? Is it going to be actual performances? And then are they doing a physical book? Are they doing an audio book? Are they doing both? That was my main questions, was just about like truly what are we getting out of this. I thought that the example chapters in the supplemental materials were fun to read. It was good to see like the actual tangible parts of this work that he's talking about clearly so passionately. So yeah, overall I thought it was strong. There was lots of, again, passion and lots of details, but just a couple more specific things that I was confused about.
Yes, and I echo a lot of Emily's sentiment. I felt that the attachments and the extra chapters as well as the recommendations, the letters of support were really strong, and kind of it shows that he has really thought this through. I love the passion of the ideas he's putting out there. I guess I also was unclear on exactly the execution or I mean, the way that he was going to deliver the work. And I also felt it was great because he's also applied to the Madison Arts Commission and gotten this grant, as well as a publishing contest. And I appreciated his budget breakdown. I thought it was thorough and it seems accurate. I also had some questions, and I'm not sure that's something that would be normally covered off in an application of this, but in terms of, getting the required permission from Uber to be perhaps recording within their, vehicle, so to speak, and what that might mean, legally in terms of interviewing passengers, and how do you get buy-in and make sure that, those types of things are considered. But overall, I thought it was a very strong application. And yeah, I guess a few of the things that I just was unclear on was the community partners and collaborators, like you said, Art Lit Lab, great organization, but I was unclear on how they were partnering and participating. And I also wasn't completely clear on how they planned to measure and evaluate its impact and value. I think it was a little bit light in that space. So that's it from me.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll take a minute to score and then raise your hands when you're done, please. Thank you for the physical hand, Jennifer. Oh, you're muted, just so you know.
Oh, there. Now it's working. Okay.
Okay, looks like we're ready to move on. Or was that a question, Anne? You're good to go? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. You can lower your hands. We'll move on to the next one. So we'll move on to ID number 26508 under the category of music, Wisconsin Chamber Choir, They're requesting $3,757, which is 21.77% of their budget. Jennifer's primary and Anne is secondary whenever you're ready.
Hi, my screen keeps glitching, so I hope that's not going to be a problem. But yeah, so I really enjoyed. I've actually seen the Wisconsin Chamber Choir before, so I'm familiar with both the space and the type of materials they've done there. I thought it was very straightforward, very straightforward. They're going to be putting together two concerts that they're asking for funding help with. They're actually putting together more than that, but they're asking for supplementary funds for the first two. The first of which is going to be a holiday, and then the second one is going to be a smaller, more intimate concert in February. They talk about bringing in professionals as well as the choir, and I thought this was a little bit confusing in that they didn't give a lot of good bios of the people that they're bringing in. There's a good bio of the person who's running the program, but not of the people that they're going to be giving honorarium to. So some of their funding is actually coming from the singers themselves, and other people are being funded. And I don't think that's a problem. I think that's probably appropriate maybe, but I thought a little bit more explanation about who was being brought in, why they were getting the honorarium, and what that was doing would have been useful at that point. They also say that they're going to be reaching 200 people, and that was a little bit confusing as well. One would assume that the first concert, the concert that's supposed to be for the holidays, is going to be larger, and the other one's going to be a smaller one. But again, I think that could have been better explained. They also mentioned that there's going to be a free YouTube recording, and it doesn't talk about how many people might be seeing that. And clearly they have the information to give us that, because they've been doing this for a long time. So I think it would have been nice to see more of that. And the other thing that I was a little bit confused about, or I thought would have been nice to see more about, was how they were planning to get more middle-aged people from adults that were not necessarily aging adults. So they said, or they, like many programs like this, we see like an aging of the population, and they admit that they have that, but that they're moving that needle back to the middle, but they don't really talk about how. They just said it's creative ways of funding. So I think it's a program that definitely has a lot of merit, particularly the fact that they're going to be doing a lot of contemporary music, which might not be able to be seen otherwise. That the quality is really there. The space that they do it in is wonderful. The fact that they're paying people, I like seeing that. I like the fact that the artists are being paid, and that we're not just expecting people to give and give and give. And the artists, I really enjoyed seeing that part of it. But I did think they could have been a little bit better at explaining who these people were and who they were reaching, and how they were going to reach them. But generally, I thought it was a great thing for Madison to have, and a great project in general.
Thanks, Jennifer. On the whole, I agree with you. I thought this overall, it was a straightforward, clear, concise proposal for funding for a project that they are doing on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed reading their evaluation section as well. I thought it was thorough with examples of evaluation methods they're going to use, both anecdotal and quantifiable. I appreciated reading that. And in general, it's always good to see both confirmed and pending sources of support. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated the supplemental materials. They provided more context, and I thought they utilized that that space really well with a concert program and concert descriptions.
Mhm.
And an area for potential improvement and future proposals. If I'd love to have seen examples of repertoire. They mentioned quite a few times in the application about their commitment to diverse choral music and showcasing global pieces. But and it would have been nice to see just some examples of that type of repertoire. I know they had a concert program and a concert description, but if there's potential to do that in a narrative at some point, again, I know they're limited by word and character space, but just sort of hitting home on that point because they mention it often enough, it made me ask as a reader.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure in the budget, the guest artists honoraria, are those the students? I wasn't sure. I was looking for clarity on that.
Yeah, me myself as well, and it does say that they're getting money. Part of it is singer fees, and then there are honorarium that are going to different people, but it's not super clear who that's going to, and what that breakdown is.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on this application?
I have one thing. In the budget section, they were counting like sales and things for all three concerts, but are only asking for funding for two. And I guess I'm not exactly sure how they're supposed to line up like that, but I guess I would assume if you're only requesting support for two, should you only be counting income to go against it for those two? Because, they have ticket sales for all three. They have singer dues, which I'm assuming is for like the whole season. So I just don't know if you're like requesting budgetary support for only a portion of your season, but then in your project income, you're counting your whole season, if that's a problem or not. So that was my only concern.
I think that's a good point, Emily, in terms of the context in which we were reading it for those two concerts, and then they seem to expand that budget within the larger scope. So there was a little inconsistency there.
And they don't mention the cost when you, sort of for all three at all at any place. So I think that is a good point. Yeah.
Okay, good conversation. We'll take a few minutes to score and raise your hands when you're done, please.
I just wanted to point out as a personal aside, while we're conducting this business, Jennifer, your cat is really enjoying the sun and it's making me smile. They're part of this panel process. Morning zoomies.
They're menaces, I'm telling you. There's not a plant that hasn't felt their wrath.
Everybody's good to go? Okay, great. You can lower your hands. We'll move on. ID number 26513 in the category of multidisciplinary arts and culture. The organization is Madison Area Technical College. Their request is for $5,000, which is 32.79% of their total budget. Carrie is primary, Emily is secondary, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so expressions of us, a collective canvas, basically is what you had mentioned. It's this is through submitted by Jimmy Cheffin, Madison Area Technical College, or Madison College, as stated. So it basically it's a school, it's a school district type multidisciplinary arts culture, and they're talking about an event October 2025, October 2025, which is like right around the corner, basically, February 2026 and April 2026. And so the venue is going to be at Madison College, their art gallery, the South Campus. And yeah. So looks like this is a 3-part arts initiative, where it sounds like they're doing several things through the gallery exhibitions and performances and poetry slam. And so the participants 31, and the size of the audience 1,000. So I'm assuming that's in combination, that's the combined amount of attendees or something. So the audience, their intended audience, are the student, staff, surrounding community members, and the ages 18 through 60, strong representation LGBTQ plus BIPOC. And so in referencing past events, they've drawn audiences averaging 40% students, et cetera, et cetera. So this is their first time applying for this project. I did think that with them discussing that it's a collective canvas in the 3-part series, I thought that when I had made, where are my notes here? Sometimes I can't read my chicken scratch here. I think that with what the project discusses about them uniting community folks and Sexuality and Gender Alliance, and that all that collaboration, I think that was well discussed. And then also working with Madison College's marketing team to design coordinated outreach plan. That was good. And jumping to the budget, I thought that was explained well. I was wondering about one of the parts where where are we here? Okay, that they have, I think that, yeah, that is pretty detailed. I did have a question and I can't read my writing now, sorry. But with the project income, none of that, nothing in the explanatory notes about that. The individual's contributions and gifts, we have, that's 10,250 there. And so the in-kind cash is 780. I thought the budget narrative was pretty well written. I thought, with the division of organizational culture and impact at Madison College expanding, I thought that was, they have a kind of a breakdown of that, the performers, their budget, the balance, the expenses minus income, and they have that should be 0. Some things, the support letters, I thought the support letters were very helpful. I think like to know a little bit more about some of the artists, some of the folks that were going to be involved in it, maybe a little bit more descriptors about that. But it's strong. This is their first time applying for this, so I thought it was strong. Although I just was a little concerned about if you'd like to know a little bit more about if you're giving money to someone's for this type of work, would have liked to know a little bit more about whom. So I'll stop there.
Sorry, it's really good timing for the cattail to show up in the camera. I agree with everything you said, Carrie. I definitely wanted to hear more about the artists that were going to be involved and what that was going to look like. The one question I had too is like, how are they getting student artists? Like, is this for a class? Is there going to be like a call for proposal? Like, obviously they talk about the guest artists they're bringing in. But then I think whatever student involvement is on top of that was lost to me. And once again, and maybe I'm just overthinking this, but they say that they're going to be using the money for the 3rd performance, for the 3rd installation, yet the budget is a breakdown of everything. So I don't know if it's just they're giving us details for the whole plan, which like I do appreciate seeing how they're going to do this whole thing. I just think like really the only space where it's mentioned that they're planning on using these funds for the third program and the third program only is in the budget narrative, which is a good place to put it. I don't know, maybe prefacing it up earlier somehow, but otherwise, yeah, I thought it was very straightforward. I thought that it was very well detailed, just hoping for that little more information that both Carrie and I mentioned.
All right, any other comments? Okay, we'll take a minute to score. Raise hands when done, please. Okay, you can lower your hands. Okay, last grant in our first round here, ID number 26523, Arts and Education. The organization is Brio, and the request is for $5,250, which is 29.41% of the total request. Primary is Holly, and Jennifer is secondary. Whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Just coming off mute here. So the applicant is Music on Brio, and this is for their 14th annual community concert series. And they have they do not need a fiscal receiver. They are a previous applicant, and this is for a community concert in November at My Arts, and then a spring concert at the Barrymore. These are free, open to the public, and then they will, the recordings of the students and the guest artists will be available online afterwards. The guest artist group will also present at Emerson Elementary, a local elementary school on the east side in that area. And they have a lot of various social media channels that they seem to use. They are, this is like we mentioned, the 14th annual community concert series, integrating their Music by Black Composers project. These free concerts pair students with diverse local professional musicians, bringing Emerson and the wider community together, which I loved. This is a very community heavy project and very specific to those East Side neighborhoods, Emerson East, Eakin Park, Sassy, and very connected with those populations of those that community. Let's see here. They are requesting funding in the amount, let's see, what is that? Seems like I skimmed right past that. Sorry. Let's see. Sorry, this is my first time doing the grant panel review, so it's a little new to me, but
You're doing great. Take your time.
okay. Overall, I really thought this was such a solid application and applicant, and I was just impressed with the thoroughness of their responses. It feels like this is a really well-organized group. They have a realistic budget, in my opinion, and the different expenses all make sense. They have reached out to various private donors, the Task Foundation. So they've secured 12,600 in donations, and as well as tuition for the student tuition. And let's see, what else did I like? I have, so everything was really, really interesting. I will say, and this was something that was not, you know, I won't, it's a weakness or an area for potential improvement was the specific plan for how they're going to measure the project impact and value. And I know it's hard to know in the future, but this is their 14th season. So I would expect to see a detailed plan for that. I also thought the responses were just so thorough and interesting and such a valuable community art project that I honestly like, there's besides the evaluation, I thought this was really, really well thought out and articulated. And I think the other thing was they had some great support documentation and overall just an excellent applicant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said, and I have to say that I was particularly impressed with the supplementary materials. I thought not only the letters from the kids who had been part of it, but also the images. It just seems to do all the things that you're kind of looking in a project like this. You know, you bringing in experts, you have community involvement, you have family involvement, you have community who can be the recipients of the materials that they're getting. Everything about it was very strong. And I was, like I said, particularly impressed with the way they utilized the supplementary materials.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just, in terms of areas for improvement, in terms of future proposals, I mean, it was challenging to find a lot. I thought this was an excellent proposal. I have a nitpicky thing, which the applicant can take with a grain of salt, but something to consider just in the logistics of writing is spelling out the org names first before using an acronym. I think there were a couple of instances here where they were using acronyms, and that's perfectly fine, but something to keep in mind is assuming your reader doesn't know what that acronym stands for. So again, very nitpicky, nitpicky comment, but I think it can be a distraction for a reader when they're trying to focus on something else. So just something to consider in the future that will strengthen their proposals even more.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a minute to score and raise your hand when you're done, please. All right. Thank you very much. Some great thoughtful discussion. Appreciate everybody's comments and review of what we've gone through so far. I think we will take a 10-minute break and resume at 9:40. Sound good to everybody? All right, great. Thank you. Okay. Everybody's all coffeeed up. Okay, well, we'll drive right back in. Moving on, ID number 26537 in the music category. We have the Madison Music Collective requesting $4,500, which is 25% of their request. Anne is primary and Emily is secondary, whenever you're ready.
Okay, just one more second here, pulling up my notes. Okay, the Madison Music Collective is requesting funding from Dane Arts for their free jazz series, also called the Dig Jazz Series. They will be partnering with venues such as Arts and Lit Lab and the Rigby Pub, and they are also looking for new venues in which to collaborate. Partnering with different types of venues will help broaden their reach and desire to attract new audiences to jazz. Their series intends to reach roughly 2,000 people and feature 45 different artists. The format of their concerts, or rather their ticketing system, is novel with the pay what you can system. MMC has existed since 1987, and they are all volunteer and a member-based organization. They make a point of featuring local musicians and supporting their livelihoods with fair compensation. And presenting concerts in accessible locations that are also comfortable is key to their mission. Overall, I thought this was a strong proposal. I mentioned that pay what you can ticketing approach, which I really appreciated reading about that. I think it reiterates a certain dedication for attracting and retaining their audiences from a variety of backgrounds, and also working with these independent venues who may not otherwise host or be able to afford the artist fees. Though they did make it clear that the presenting partners have to have a stake in the project, whether that's marketing or financial commitment. As I referenced a minute ago, they are looking for new venues on the south and west sides of Madison. So it sounds like they have some of the other areas of the community covered, so to speak, in terms of venues, but they are looking for new partnerships. So I look forward in the future to hearing how that pans out. And overall in the application, they make a consistent case for the importance of not only paying the musicians well, but paying them on time in a gig economy. There's this challenging environment, it seems, in the venues where paying the artist can be tied more explicitly to ticket sales in general. And something I really appreciated with this applicant is them clearly valuing the crucial nature of being a consistent source of support for local artists, and that's both emerging and established. They state that the Dane Arts funding will be used directly to pay the artists. So again, reiterating investment in the local artist economy. Their project budget narrative was very thorough. So that was, thank you for utilizing that space really well in telling your story and quantifying and qualifying a lot of these numbers. I was wondering if in their valuation, they were going to survey the artists as well. They don't make mention of it, but it's something that cropped into my head. And I thought the marketing plan overall left some detail to be desired as to how they'll promote to prospective audiences beyond that pay what you can ticketing approach. I wasn't sure in the project budget as well with the artist fees, if those are designated to individual artists and not the venue. Again, alignment or trying to find alignment in the narrative when they're, again, reiterating the dedication to fair compensation. And wondering why the venue fees weren't listed under space rental instead and instead they were in the artist fees. So I was a bit confused there. More of a logistical piece, the letters of support were lovely, but they were outdated by 2 to 3 years. So something to consider is refreshing and updating them with a more current date and future proposals. And then in the supplementals, I would have loved to have seen a roster of prior jazz artists that they've worked with to reinforce that artistic excellence and the breadth of the artists that they serve. I thought that was a missed opportunity. But again, overall, it sounds like a great project.
Yeah, I would second everything that Anne brought up. I think a couple other things I have. Oh, and the letters I also noted. So letters can be within 3 years of the application deadline. So they're only out of date by like a month technically, or I guess I don't know when these are due, but I know 2 of them were dated for July of 2022. So
Okay.
assuming these were due around July, they're like right on the cusp of when they were out of date. I do agree that I think just having more up-to-date information is helpful, especially something like this that happens annually. Like I'm sure things have changed in the last 2 years that they've done this, so it would be nice to have some more updated ones, but otherwise I agree. I thought it was very nice that they're, aware about the fact that currently like the 2 venues they partner with are in the downtown area and are hoping to be able to branch out to the south or the west side. A few questions that I had listed was I feel like there was no real explanation for how they the demographics that they chose to include with this in terms of age and who was going to be like an audience member. I don't think there was a real explanation for how those numbers were broken down. I thought so we have pay what you can tickets, but there are no sales listed in the budget item. So I know that it's probably hard to guess, but if this is something they've been doing for a few years, maybe they have even a semblance of an idea of how much they'll make for pay what you can ticket sales. It just felt weird to completely omit ticket sales from income on their budget. And then I once again just always want to know, how are they selecting the bands that they're performing with? How are they attracting bands? Are they auditioning? Is this like people they know, word of mouth? Like what? I'm just always interested to know not only how we're getting an audience, but how we're getting the people that are participating. I know that they're talking about, the fact that they're trying to focus on artists or bands or whomever who maybe usually wouldn't get the spotlight, but how are we drawing those people in? So, and yeah, I agreed with you, and that I think the marketing area could use a little bit of work. It felt like a lot of like telling us and not necessarily showing us or explaining. Like they were just like, we're gonna advertise, trust me. Like it felt a little bit like there was some details missing there, but overall I did think it was a really strong application. Those were just my comments on top of Anne's.
Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll take a minute to score. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. ID number 26548 in the multidisciplinary arts and culture category. The organization is Culture Trip LLC. Request is for $4,800, which is 31.37% of their budget. Jennifer's primary and Carrie is secondary whenever you're ready.
Hi, yeah. I actually found myself having to read this one over several times to kind of really get a sense of what was happening. It's a multidisciplinary project that will involve music, theater, or music, dance, and at its heart, recipes and community involvement. So the woman who is applying for this, Miss Samira Gretzinger, seems very passionate about it and has a great idea. I think the idea behind it is really great. She wants to bring in people out of the Latino community, bringing together recipes from different generations, and bring this all together in multiple spaces, involving some, like I said, some dancing, folkloric dancing, and then also having an ongoing digital access to this. Great idea, involving local community centers, which I think is a fantastic idea, partnering with a lot of different organizations. The problem I found with the trying to really get my head around it is there isn't a lot of detail besides her involvement about who specifically is going to be involved in it. We don't see, and in terms of the funding, I can see where the very much needed funding is going to go for graphic design and for organization, totally reasonable. But I don't see, is the dancing going to require somebody to organize it? Who's going to be doing the dancing? The recipes are wonderful, but how are we actually finding this? Where are we actually sourcing them, besides just sort of a general idea that it's going to be within the Latino community? I would have liked to have seen just more meat on the bone, I think, with that, and possibly some examples in the supplementary materials of either recipes or the people or the bios of the people that are going to be involved. Again, a fabulous idea, but I felt like potentially could have used a lot more in the way of just sort of figuring out, yeah, exactly who is it, what are we doing, when are we doing it, and how are we paying for that? But again, a great passion project, and the idea of bringing community together in this way is something that, is beyond reproach as an idea. So yeah, that was my take on it.
I will add, I agree with everything you said. I do notice and a lot of repetition as far as it's created to preserve and celebrate. And it sounds like people will be invited. And how will they go about inviting people to give this information? How will they, any ideas of where some of these events will be held? Are they, is it going to be at a community center? Is it going to be at a park? Is it going to be, you're invited to contribute, and again, and how is it going to be? Is word of mouth going to be via Facebook or something, or, out in the community at an event? That part, again, passion, the intended outcomes are to celebrate cultural heritage through shared recipes. Again, that a little bit more could have used a little bit more intricate information about that, and is obviously wanting to foster community with regards to the budget, what's covered by the grant, what's covered by that. I think that some of that may be a little possibly speculative, but that's fine. That happens with that. I had something else. Yeah, I do like the idea of the digital access. Perhaps maybe just having a little bit more experience, or having someone assist with maybe the writing process, maybe would have given a little bit more detail. But we do get the idea that it's definitely passionate, and it's definitely celebrating Latino culture through the various ways. My 2 cents.
Any other thoughts?
Yes, so I totally agree. It's great to get specifics and to know who those partners will be. You know, she had called out, I'll engage trusted community leaders and cultural groups to spread the word. And, you know, she may already have those in her mind and know who those people all are, but it would be great to have those details. But I also know, having worked with a variety of different cultural groups locally and regionally, sometimes there is that leader in the community and they just have that magical way of pulling people out. And, you know, when the time is needed, people come together. And sometimes different communities, you know, people don't want to be necessarily on the hook or I guess I don't know how to say this, like confirmed, like they will participate, but it's kind of like that leader, she could be just such a strong organizer. And I've had that sense that she, as an educator locally, she's got a lot of experience in those spaces. I don't know, maybe I just felt a sense of trust in some of the things that she said, and having again worked with different cultural groups locally, sometimes there is that leader, and you know, they just magically kind of pull together people from the community because those community members really trust that one person. So it just like playing the devil's advocate there.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of passion there. I think in that case, though, perhaps we could have had more of that narrative. Like, see, I've done this before, and here's an example of how I've been able to pull together a similar project or a different kind of project that has a similar feeling to it. And I think that would have helped me understand why this is going to be successful.
Okay. Good thoughts, everybody. Okay, so let's take a minute to score and then raise your hand when you're done.
Thanks, everybody. I see all the scores.
Okay, great. You can lower your hands, please. Next, we'll move on to ID 26554. Arts and Education is the category. The Madison Reading Project is the organization requesting $5,250, which is 34.43% of their request. Holly is primary and Anne is secondary.
Thank you. Okay, great. So as you said, the Madison Reading Project is the applicant. And of course, they are a nonprofit. They do not need a fiscal receiver. They are a local organization where literacy is at the forefront. And this particular piece of what they're requesting is about the Community Stories Project. And this brings large print books featuring diverse characters and creators to spaces where art and literacy opportunities are needed most in Dane County, increasing reading engagement and ongoing access to arts and literacy experience. So they are, let's see here. So, you know, as a organization, they connect the community with these free books and literacy resources that ignite a love for reading and affirm and reflect the diversity of young readers. And they have been doing this for 11 years. This particular project is specific to these large-scale print versions. And these are sturdy, weatherproof materials that can be installed indoors or outdoors at schools, community centers, outdoor spaces, and other high traffic spaces. So I loved the why of this. Bringing stories out of their usual context makes it more fun and exciting for kids and encourages hesitant readers to try new things. They are very thorough in their project expense. I thought it was interesting. that it's just one artist honoraria that they're requesting, but then there's a hefty admin, of course. Well, not hefty in relation to certain things. Of course, they've got a lot of publicity and promotion they've allocated a need for the funding for, and they have small amounts of corporate sponsors and the Madison Community Foundation, as well as engaging Downtown Rotary, which is the first time we've seen them engaged. And then, of course, some print discounts they've gotten involved with, a local print partner. So let me see my notes here. Overall, you can see some of these organizations, they've got experience with grant funding applications. And I think this is another one where it's very well articulated and a very specific project for this larger nonprofit. The measurement and evaluation is something that I feel is something that still could be articulated more specifically. I'm still curious about how will they know that this is being used and valued and a good investment of time and resources. I also noted that the supplemental pieces of this were really supportive and powerful. They have several, they've got a great letter of recommendation, and overall, I had trouble finding areas for improvement. It makes sense in the way that they have presented it, in my opinion. So that's it from me.
Holly, I agree with you. I thought overall this was an excellent proposal, and I just loved this project. And I thought that the application itself did justice to this project in terms of what it aims to achieve and achieving it through mission. I just thought it was really great. This public art aspect is reminiscent of other projects that came to mind that I know of, and I love that a commitment to adaptability. What you were saying, Holly, taking these stories out of sort of traditional context and putting them in such public view and adapting them, I just think is so great. And them thinking about the ramifications of installation in indoor and outdoor spaces and everything that takes. It seemed very reminiscent of other public art projects in different communities that have been successful. And I really look forward to learning how it all plays out and how successful it is. And curious if they just talked to other organizations that have done something similar, where they're putting art in very public view in unconventional settings. I thought the breadth of the community partners to make this project a reality was notable and far-reaching. I was curious if there were any new partners they were considering, or if these were all current relationships. Let's see, I'm trying to not repeat too much of what you said. Oh, in evaluation, I was curious to know what type of feedback they intend to measure from community partners beyond the installation phase. And is there an opportunity to gather community members' feedback on their own? And if so, what might that look like? But because this is essentially a brand new project for them, I imagine it'll take some time and also a lot of feedback for future planning if they intend to do this type of project again past this project period. I was curious just to know how they would choose the books and what that process looks like. I'd love to have learned more about that. And if there were any community engagement elements involved at that stage of selecting the book, selecting the authors, etc. In the project budget, I this is not my area of expertise in terms of publishing and literary endeavors, but if there are any royalties to the author or graphic designers you'd have to pay, I was curious about that. Examples of book titles they might be considering, I think, would have been helpful to provide more context about the diversity component that they mentioned quite a few times in the proposal. And also locations, what types, I know they mentioned generally the types of locations, but just to shed a bit more light on that would have been great. And this is more of a clerical nitpicky thing, but they did attach their articles of incorporation rather than their IRS tax exempt 501c3 letter, which, as we know, those are wholly different documents. So just for next time, making sure it's spot on in terms of exactly what to submit.
So I know from just knowing about like book publishing and whatnot, the authors won't get royalties. That's like not some, or they won't get them from Madison Reading Project. They wouldn't be responsible for that type of thing. And also I don't believe they get to choose which books they receive, but it would be great to know if they would get to choose for this specific large format, because of course not just every book is going to be the right fit for this particular application. So that I agree. I would love to have known more about that.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I have one other logistical thing in the community population served portion. The percentages do not add up to 100. I have way more than mine actually add up to 2000%. And they only put percentages under anyone 30 and below, but then in the description, they say that this will reach Dane County residents of all ages and all demographics, but they only had it listed as 30 and below. So a small thing, but just one detail to point out.
Okay, thanks. We'll take a minute to score.
Sorry, I got an error. 1 second.
Okay, you can lower your hands. Thank you. Moving on, ID number 26555 in the visual arts category. Mount Horeb Area Arts Association is asking for $3,200, which is 17.11% of their budget. Emily is primary and Jennifer is secondary.
Yeah, so this is a spring art tour happening in May of 2026. It looks like clearly this is their 19th year of doing it. It is a multi-village tour of artist studios that are scattered throughout Dane County. It boosts tourism in Mount Horeb since people are traveling between the artists' locations, and then presumably would boost tourism I feel like I'm saying that weird, between anywhere in Dane County where these artist studios are participating. It looks like new this year is a stamp passport that they're giving out to people who are choosing to participate, who can get a stamp or a sticker or whatever it was at each artist studio that they visit, which I thought was a cool incentive to get people to participate. I love stamps and stickers, so I can see how it would draw someone in, and then having a physical like remembrance of the fact that you participated in this is cool as well. They use mainly social media to promote the event, and I feel like they were talking about, promoting this one and like already starting to make sure people are aware of the fact that like this happens all the time or happens annually or whatever. I thought that they had a lot of great metrics to evaluate success, surveys, visitor numbers by asking people to sign in at each artist studio, obviously sales from the artists, participation in things, comments. Yeah, I just thought that they had, for what this is, I thought it was the best, tangible, qualitative and quantitative metrics that they could get from something like this where you're not selling tickets necessarily. I thought that there were also great metrics in the letter of support, which I will note again is right on that cusp of being non-usable anymore. I believe it was also from July of 2022. But I liked that the person who was writing that letter, I believe it was someone from the Mount Horeb Chamber of Commerce, actually talked about how many visitors they thought that this brought in the weekend that it happened in 2022, and how much money people spent on artist goods, but then also things like food in Mount Horeb, if anyone got a hotel, anything like that. So I liked that there were some concrete, like, here's what we actually, so sorry. Like, here's what we did, and here's what our economy made and whatever. So I thought that was great. I think that their budget was well thought out, pretty straightforward, but had all of the important information that was needed in there. I think, like I said, having those past numbers in that letter was really helpful. I think even more past examples would be great. Here's how many people participated in this year. Any list of artists who have participated in the past would have been great too. Or if they have, it's in May of next year, which is still 6 months away, but I'm assuming they start having those conversations sooner rather than later. So if they have anyone committed for the next year, because I know they talked a lot about Dane County, but then also a lot about Mount Horeb. So like truly how much of Dane County is involved versus how much in Mount Horeb, and like how are we talking 5 artists? Are we talking 20, 50? Like how many people are involved would have been helpful. And I guess I know it does say estimated total number of project producers and presenters is 30, but I'm assuming that includes all of the people who do admin work for this as well. So I guess you could assume that the number of artists is less than 30. As I always say on all of these, would once again like to know how they get artists to participate, how they're selecting who gets to participate in this. Are they doing a request for proposals? Is it mostly word of mouth? Obviously, I'm assuming after doing 19 years, there are plenty of people who participate in this every year, but I would just like to know how they're getting artists involved as well as the audience. And again, what that number looks like. And I wrote that question down in different wording 3 times, so I'm just going to stop it at that question. So those are my notes on this.
Yeah, so I really love this project. I've heard about it for years. I've never done it, but I've heard about it for years, and I think that it's a great project. I agree. I would have liked to have seen a lot more about how the artists get involved. How do they choose the artists? Who are these artists? Like, and is it curated? Is it you just sign up for it? Do you have to? What are the criteria for being included? I think that would have been useful. The other thing that I think would have been helpful, while they're very good at giving us the metrics of how many people are coming and what they're doing, since they're using social media to promote this, how many people are just aware of it? And I think that's something that's a kind of almost a missed opportunity on their part, because for every person who shows up, how many people are aware then of this cultural community that's outside of the city? And I think rural areas very often are overlooked for when it comes to the visual arts, because you just don't get enough people to come and look at things. Like, to get that critical mass is very difficult. And I think it was a missed opportunity not to talk about the number of people that are now aware of the Driftless area and of the fact that there is this rich community of artists in the area outside of Madison. But all in all, a great project. And I love this project.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll take a minute to score, please.
Oh, sorry, I just had one thing I was thinking about in terms of evaluative measures and data collecting. Curious to know if they collect any tourism data, which could be, I imagine, could be a really helpful source and asset in telling that story of the economic impact, because they mention it a couple times. But just something to think about, again, because they're established and they've been around for so long. How does tourism city data play into this impact? Thank you.
Okay. Please raise your hands when you're done. Okay. All right, last but not least, we move on to Grace Presents in the music category, ID number 26563. They're requesting $3,000, which is 19.74% of their budget. Carrie will start the conversation and Holly is secondary.
Hey, so we have Grace Presents the 2025-2026 concert series and Midwinter series. This has been going on for quite a while. So the project information, it's the fiscal receiver is the Grace Episcopal Church, and so in reviewing this information, they've been doing this for the start date is November 1st of this year, and it is slated to end December 30th of next year. So they're having 15, they're applying for 15 free monthly concerts between this time. And so it will take place at the Grace Episcopal Church on the Square. So a lot of free concerts. And in looking at their population, their estimated total is 100, and jumping down to the narrative, where it was founded in 2011, and they are basically engaged with quality local musicians, and they're offering these free public concerts. So that was fine. They presents it's pledged from its founding to keep its concerts free. So I totally get that. And they do pay their musicians. That's another thing they like to promote and pay local musicians. The volunteer board and paid staff, they work together to implement the various values. They talk about the core values and the audiences that they want to reach. And in the format of digital and GP's website, Facebook, etc. So they're definitely trying to obviously do the necessary outreach to extend their musical, what they're doing. And going down to the budget, I feel that that's explained very well with their, what's covered, what's expense, their, narrative. It's seeking, to combine the Dane Arts 2025 cycle to that alongside with secured funding. I thought this was just well put together, including with their, I have another screen over here and it's freezing. I have this, so you see me looking over here, it just froze up. So even the letters of support are also, I think, very, very helpful. And I will say they stress that they did mention equity in the arts is a core value. Do they track this? Do they track the numbers of people that are coming, the types of people that are coming? And when we say equity, not just race and gender, but other areas, LGBTQ, folks with disability, folks from other religions that may come and partake. Only because I've also heard of people that attend sometimes various religious functions that are of other religious backgrounds, and sometimes they're not always made to feel welcome. So I just question that if if they're welcoming people, if they're coming, who's coming, that type of thing. Other than this, I thought this was very strong. I have no issues with it, other than that part, other than the tracking of the attendees that are coming. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with Carrie in what she said. I think, one thing that I would have liked to see more of is more specifics around the musicians, because they speak a lot about the guest musicians and these performances that are reflective of the city's, culture and ethnic communities. That's what they specifically use, that phrase. And meanwhile, I didn't see like, oh, in the past we've worked with X, Y, and Z. It would have been nice to kind of help tell that story. However, they had a really, really well done support and supplemental material. So not only did they have letters of support, but they did include different files of people actually, at these performances and different examples. So some of them the titles were like, oh, are those the musicians? It would have been nice to kind of see that included in the application. I also appreciated, they included their marketing approach and their different various channels that they have leveraged in the past, a lot of digital and email list. They have a hefty email list and all of this stuff, and then working with ISMIS and Cap Times, which was great to see them kind of really think through that. And also I appreciated that, of course, I think someone said it previously, these paid opportunities for local musicians and showing the value. We're not just asking for musicians, artists to come and volunteer their talents. But yeah, I think overall it was a well thought out application. Their administrative costs are it's hard to say. It feels high as compared to some of the others, but really I'm wanting to compare each one only to their own and not to another one. And they did explain it's, their program coordinator is getting $550 per month for 14 months. So then it's like, well, it's okay. I guess that does make sense. But then they have just one artist honorarium. And so I would like to know, who that artist has been in the past. Oh, I guess it's times 15. So it's 500 per concert. Okay. So there's 15 different artists. So it would have been nice to know who those people have been in the past or who they have earmarked for future events. I think we all crave that extra specific information. But yeah, that's it from me.
Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll take a minute to score.
Well, congrats, everybody. They're all in.
Good job, everybody. Wow, really appreciate all of your thoughtful discussion and conversations. You all did an excellent job. Really appreciate your thoroughness. We know how much time it takes to review these and really give it careful attention. So thanks so much. The commission's going to be meeting on Thursday, October 16th to make final decisions. So of course, they'll be looking at your scores and making those decisions. Also, just to mention, please know you're welcome to attend events at no cost on behalf of Dane Arts. Reach out to Mark or Augusta if you're interested in attending a Dane Arts sponsored event. I know Augusta usually likes to collect some feedback. If you have any feedback on the process here, welcome to share here, or you're welcome to email Augusta or Mark about that. Any thoughts on that?